This week on the No More Late Fees podcast, Jackie and I are joined by actress Nicole Bilderback. We're super excited that she agreed to join us. You definitely know Nicole from her role as Whitney in Bring It On, as well as her roles in Clueless, Can't Hardly Wait, and guest appearances on Dark Angel, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dawson's Creek, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. This is a fun episode, so buckle in. So excited. How excited are you, Dave?
I am so beyond excited. She is one of those actresses that just is very defining in the 90s and 2000s for me. It seems like she was on some of our most prolific movies. And so I was very stoked that you reached out and she said yes. And so
You mean stalked?
Oh,
I did what I had to do. I did what I had to do, and it's well worth it. So
yes,
check out our episode with Nicole.
I miss Blockbuster.
Oh yeah. I don't think we realized how much we missed Blockbuster until like it started to become kind of nostalgic. And then we saw that documentary, The Last Blockbuster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that hit right here.
I did not see it. However, I've heard a lot about it, and I'm sure it would hit home with me as well.
Yes.
It definitely did. We were lucky enough to interview the director of the movie, and just his insight of actually going to the last Blockbuster that's in Oregon, and just hearing kind of like what caused the downfall. Everybody thinks it's Netflix, but it was really just some awful business decisions. So that was interesting too. Yeah,
that's shocking. Actually,
really dumb decisions. Remember when they were saying no more late fees? That was like the nail in the coffin for them. That was not good.
Oh my god. Hence your no more late fees, I'm assuming. Exactly. Right? That's so fun.
So we were so excited that you came on because we just did our Bring It On episode, and we had been waiting. Jackie makes fun of me because there's just like a certain handful of movies that I'm like, there's special occasions. And so I picked it for my birthday movie, and we were really excited to do it. Yeah.
Oh, yay. Oh, that's so fun. Yeah. You know, what's funny about Bring It On is well, Bring It On and Clueless, just because it turns out they ended up being, I mean, they literally stand the test of time. I mean, Bring It On is pretty much just as popular now as it was back when it was released.
Yeah.
And it covers 3 generations, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. And I mean, I've met 10-year-olds who, oh my God, it's my favorite movie. And I'm like, you weren't even born yet when it came out, and, but it's crazy. I mean, dads in their 40s, 50s, cause they have daughters, or they saw the movie themselves when it came out.
Right.
And it's, I mean, it's literally the biggest demographic, but it's because they're timeless movies,
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of special.
I mean, if you know how to pick them, you know how to pick them. I mean, the fact that you are in, like, those are the 2 quintessential movies, really. I mean, maybe Mean Girls and Legally Blonde.
I love Mean Girls.
But those were like, everybody quotes those movies, and it goes beyond just being teen movies, I guess you could say. Like you said, but you were in both of them. That is amazing. When did it hit you that, like, okay, so first you did Clueless. Let's back up to Clueless. When you were on, filming, did you know while you guys were filming that it was going to be such a phenomenon? I can't say words today.
No, it's okay. I go, I'm sure that'll happen to me too. You know what's funny is when imagine reading Clueless, the script, on paper. And of course, I knew who Amy Heckerling was, because I knew she was, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I knew she was kind of iconic in that sense. But, when you're reading, I mean, I was a baby. I had only lived in LA for like maybe a year and a half before I got Clueless, which was my very first movie ever. Oh, and I remember reading the script. I know, great first movie. Huh? So reading the script on paper and reading, dialogue that says, whatever, you know what I mean? You don't necessarily and of course, I grew up in Dallas, Texas.
Right.
So I wasn't, trying to make the connection between the Beverly Hills lingo and all. It was funny, but I'm like, what is this? And then it wasn't until the table read, but right before we started shooting, we had a big cast and crew table read. And then I was like, oh, and I got to feel the energy and the flow and see all the other actors say their lines. And then I was like, okay, this is going to work. And then when you're shooting it, you're just having fun and enjoying yourself. And nobody really anticipates just how massive Clueless was going to be. I mean, it was #1 at the box office.
Yeah. We joke on this podcast that my memory's not great all the time, but there are a few movies where I remember like watching the movie in the theater, and my mom took me to see it, and it's just one of those movies, like as you're watching it, it just changes everything. I felt like it changed my life, like something about that movie. Well, I know what it was. I mean, obviously it was a teen movie, loved that. But the fact of the character Dion, for me, to be able to see in a teen movie a Black lead, and she wasn't just like Cher's friend, like she had her own storyline. She was just as fabulous as Cher. It was amazing. And the entire cast was, multicultural, and that was like ahead of its time because it just didn't happen that often,
It didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
Back then. And I relate to you, and thank you for sharing that, because I've had a lot of whether it's other Asian American actors in the industry or total strangers that I'll see at a restaurant or somewhere, and they'll literally walk up to me in public and just say, they're like, oh my God, you were the only representation I had growing up, and I would always get emotional hearing that. They're like, there was no other Asian Americans. And what I mean by that is people who look like me, but playing American roles, I didn't do characters that had, accents, or I wasn't always just the small, supporting role, or, fresh off the boat roles, or very, owned a liquor store or laundromat. You know what I mean? It's for me personally, I didn't have any representation. I had none. I had zero, no one. I mean, the only actors I would see in movies and TV shows, again, they either had accents, or they had very, very small roles. Like they were just a quick little co-star, or just 2 lines, or, they were a lot older. I never really saw them just be Asian American and just exist, as normal in a storyline. Yeah. And so hearing that from total strangers is just everything.
That's amazing.
And it is amazing that you had so many of those roles, which was fantastic. Like, it was funny because I was at my birthday dinner showing my family like who we were going to have on the show. And usually my mom doesn't remember anybody. And she was
my mom's just like that
too. Yeah. But they, like, everybody at the table recognized who you were by me just showing your picture. So it's just like, you didn't have the biggest role like in Can't Hardly Wait, but you're memorable,
Yes.
And even in Clueless, like we know the character. Was it Summer? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like we knew who she was. Yeah. It just, you stood out, and you just had that screen presence, which was so fun. And especially with Whitney. Oh my God.
So much fun.
So much fun.
People ask me, what do you think out of your entire career? Because I've been doing this almost 30 years now. And people ask me, what would you say, what's the one job that you get recognized the most for? And I'd probably have to say Bring It On. It's probably Whitney.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I'm like, great.
You just had such great chemistry too with Claire.
Yeah, Claire Kramer.
With Claire, and I was going to say Courtney, but
yeah. Well, they're both right. Both answers are right.
It just felt like you guys were best friends. Yeah. And Jackie said on the podcast that you guys were equal opportunity haters, which like
it was like, it didn't matter. Like one of my favorite scenes in Bring It On is when Courtney is about to fight the little girl at regionals. It just, cracks me up every time. And like you could feel her passion. She wanted to go after that girl.
Claire played that so straight. Like she looked like she was gonna fight this child.
And I mean, okay, number one, who does that? Like, who does to a child? But number two, come on, the little child did not give a you know what. No. It was like, all right, girl, let's go. You know?
And I love that you're like trying to pull her back, but then you guys end up fighting. It's just chaos, but so much fun. And again, the movie, obviously there's so many main characters. Everybody felt like they had the moment to shine. You know, like it wasn't just
a true ensemble cast.
It really was. And you guys definitely had your moments. I saw your post where someone found that you guys had matching backpacks. Never realized that the whole time, and it's super cute.
Is that not the funniest? That's one of those things that like I'm sure I knew it at the time because I'm sure props, you know, and wardrobe that was planned. And I vaguely remember that going, oh, of course I would have matching backpacks. But it's something like that you forget all these years later. So when I saw that post, I was like, oh my God, we did have matching backpacks. Like, and post.
Did you originally audition for Whitney, or was it kind of like, I heard that some people auditioned just for Torrance and then they got other parts. Like, how did that go?
I originally auditioned for Whitney, and it's funny because Whitney's character description they did actually specify Asian. They wanted Asian American, but the joke of her was she originally had like platinum blonde hair and tan, like really super tan. So when it came to shooting, or actually we had like 4 weeks of pre-prep. We call it 4 weeks of cheer boot camp, which is literally what it was, because we had to learn all the routines and you know, do all the stunts and all that stuff. So, but during that time, they actually paid for me to tan, but then decided against not bleaching my hair, which kind of probably a good thing that they didn't bleach my hair. But yeah, and so then it just looks like I'm just really tan in the movie. So, I'm like, they know they could have gone without both, but but I mean but it's LA, it's Southern California, and you know, they care about that stuff. I cared about that stuff at that age, you know. So
another one of my like favorite subtle things in Clueless that you did was when Summer is getting in the car after the holiday party and she has a lit snowman in her seat. It's just like it's so perfect, and it's a blink and you miss it. But every time I watch Clues, it's one of my favorite parts.
So it's funny you say blink and you miss it. However, people come up to me and say that to me all the time. Even to this day, like that was always a thing back when the movie first came out. But like, even to this day, they're like, the best is that you're stealing a snowman that is still lit up and it's in your car. And I'm like, well, of course we are. Like, hello.
Right? Why wouldn't we be?
We're not going to steal one that's not lit up. That's boring. How amazing is that? Isn't that so funny?
I love that.
It's just crazy. The cast chemistry on both Bring It On and Clueless, it just seemed like you guys were all friends and just tight knit, and that you were having a blast, you know? And both of your leads, you know, with Alicia Silverstone and with Kirsten, they were both playing actual teenagers, which still blows my mind because that never happened.
I know. Oh no, it's true. Yeah. Usually you want to get actors, you know, that are 18 and over, you know, to play younger just for working reasons, you know, just because it makes it easier on the schedule. They can stay longer on sets and, you know, don't have to necessarily worry about tutors for school and yada, yada, yada. So, but you know, Kirsten was really, I think she was 16, 17 when we shot Bring It On. And Alicia was, she was young too. I forgot. She was, I don't even know how old she was.
15. I think she was 15 or 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh my God. I mean, heck, what am I talking about? I was young.
Yeah.
I think I was like 18 or 19 when we shot that movie, but goodness gracious. But you don't really see that often. Usually you see actors who are in their 20s, you know, playing 16. And
I was watching Never Have I Ever, and the guy who plays Paxton on that show on Netflix, he's like 30 years old. And when I found that out, then I was torn because like the girl who plays the main role is actually when she started, I think she wasn't 18 yet. And so it's like it's really hard to ship this to these two, but I really do like him better than the other guy.
Yeah. You're like, I have to admit, I do like him. Yeah. Look, here's what I say as an actor. Like, I don't care how old you are. If you look the part, if you look the age, that's work. That's work for us, you know?
So true. And I think that happens more with minority actors more than anything, especially like I always see Black actors and they're like 30 when they're playing a teenage role, but it's just like, what can I get? What's available to me? And you take it and you make it your own and you do what you have to do, you know?
Absolutely.
Black don't crack, Asian don't raisin. It's a real
true.
thing.
It's so true. I'm so glad you said it because I wanted to say it so bad. I was like, no, I'm gonna let her say it. I have a feeling she's gonna deliver. I'm just gonna hold off.
How did you get into acting?
Oh gosh. So I grew up a dancer my whole life. And it's so funny because when I was younger, I used to like when I be in my living room watching, and I'm going to age myself, but I'd be watching like, you know, Cosby Show or Family Ties, Who's the Boss, you know, and I would act out scenes from all my favorite TV shows that I would watch. And then of course, like my parents would walk in the living room or my brothers would walk in like, Nick, who are you talking to? Like, no, I'm acting out a scene from Growing Pains, you know? And so I always had this feeling. I always felt, you know, drawn to acting. And then I think I was 15 when I was in theater class and we had a special guest speaker who was the owner of an acting school, a TV and film acting school that came just to, you know, be a special guest speaker in my theater class. And I went home that day. I was like, Mom, I got to take these acting classes. It's TV and film acting classes. And I convinced her. And then I ended up going to the acting school. And then I had always known though, that I was going to move to LA ever since I was really young. I knew I was going to move to LA right after high school. And I'm very blessed to have parents who were supportive of that, who said, go after your dreams. That's awesome. You live once, you got to go after what you love. You know, college will always be there. You can always go back if you want, but like they, you know, and it's so unsuspecting because, you know, I, you know, come from a very, you know, sort of, I'm from Texas, you know, very old fashioned Southern Texas, you know, good old Christian values and Mom's like really Catholic, you know, and so you wouldn't think that my parents would be the kind of people who would let their youngest child and only daughter move to Los Angeles right after high school. But I think it felt right for everyone. I just felt it's what needed to happen. And it was my journey, and my parents, I just got really lucky. They just supported that. And still do today, believe it or not. So
that's awesome. After you got Clueless, did you move to California or did you go back and forth between California and Texas?
No, I had already lived in LA. Okay. So my parents had moved me out, and I already had a roommate from my acting school in Dallas. So we moved out together and we were roommates. And then so I lived, I mean, God, I got Clueless. I only lived in LA for like a year or year and a half before I got Clueless.
Oh, wow.
And so I was already living in Los Angeles.
That's amazing. That worked out perfect.
Tell me, it's so fun. God, when you're young, you know, you don't really realize you know, how incredible it is to be able to start working so quickly as I did.
Yeah.
Because I was just happy to be out here and, you know, and just was like, oh my God, but I didn't realize to what level of how big Clueless was going to be at the time. And then now you look back and you just go, wow, man, higher forces that be, you know, were on my side. Like it was, you have to some degree believe in that everything happens for a reason, you know? So
I think that with those two movies, I mean, they're timeless stories, obviously. Yeah. I think with Bring It On, it was able to tackle appropriation in a way that was easily digestible for most people. And it didn't gloss over the hard stuff. So I think even with Clueless and the cast, it just, I feel like if you invest in diversity, it does give you a long lasting story, you know, and people will resonate with it years after, which is just, it still blows my mind that it's still such a hard concept for Hollywood to like grasp, you know?
Isn't it fascinating though? Like you think about it, this was back, you know, God, Clueless we shot it in 94, it was released in 95. And Bring It On, we shot it in 99, it was released in 2000. And you think about it and you're like, this was back then. This was well over 20 years ago, both movies. And you're like, my God, like I think about it and I go, I wonder, like, that just goes to show you how cool, like people like Amy Heckerling and you know, Jessica Bettinger, who wrote Bring It On, you know, it's like you sit there and you go, good for them. Like, you know, just for already seeing outside the box. And I do believe that there absolutely have been creatives this whole time that have been trying to move diverse casting along and, you know, equality along. But of course, them too having being rejected a lot for, no, we need to hire white for all these, you know, it's just the industry itself and normalizing people who look like you and I in lead roles, not just in the friend roles, but in lead roles, was just not, it just wasn't a thing back then, you know?
Yeah, we're, you know, in this process of doing the podcast, we're learning so much. There's some movies that we're just shocked that people didn't really even think about it. They just made a very diverse movie and it just ended up happening. Or sometimes like what we just did, Drumline, and it took so long to greenlight that movie. And then when they finally did, I think it was like the difference between $2 to $3 million to bump up the budget. And they wouldn't do it unless they added a white cast member to the movie, because they didn't, you know, they originally looked at it as not being a Black movie, but it just was a movie that happened to have Black people in it.
Right.
That's it, you know,
and
like,
guess what? And that storyline, it's telling a story, but guess what? That storyline is actually normal in the rest, you know, in this whole country. Like that's everyday thing, but goes to show you how crazy, like how insane, because, you know, to big studio executives and, you know, the people who care about, of course, the money making and the profit from, you know, they care about box office sales and things like that. It's, you sit there and you go, do you not like, I understand you need to make money and you need certain names and you need, you know, what I get the marketing of that, but you do realize that, you know, a movie like Drumline, like this is normal everywhere in America. Like it's okay to make a movie about this.
Right. And it's at this point now where we know it's just kind of like a joke. You can't say it's not going to make money, because it's been proven not just once, but a few hundred times over. And that speaks to not just like diversity with ethnicity and race, but like women, you know, like labeling every female-led movie as a chick flick or that female story. Right. Like the female stories cannot be digested by you know, anybody but females. Like it doesn't make any sense. You know,
it goes to show you that all these narratives, these societal narratives that, you know, that have been created and that are out there, especially in media when promoting these TV shows and movies, how much it's, you know, I mean, look at what it's helped, you know, perpetuate out there, you know, all these false beliefs. And it's like how we as a society have been, whether it's subconscious or consciously, been contributing to it and not even, you know, maybe not even necessarily intending to, but it's just, you know, it's the way. So I'm glad that now finally that, you know, we're starting to break down those, you know, all those, you know, falsities that we've literally, the industry has been living within for so many, well, actually ever since the entertainment industry started. I mean, really, you know,
it's funny when you go, I was watching a documentary that when movies first started, it was actually quite diverse because they didn't think it was like a real thing, right? Like before it became big, there was a ton of women writers at the time. There were Black directors, Black cast, you know, they were making Black movies, and it just, because no one was there, didn't think it was serious, they were like, it's not a big deal. And then when it came to like preservation of those films, they didn't preserve them. So it's like those got lost in history essentially, which is just really, really sad.
Just like I'm sorry, but just like everything else in this country. Sorry.
Yeah. They're trying to get rid of Turner Classic Movies right now. And Turner Classic Movies, they take the time to try to, preserve so many of those movies that are so important to our history. And they're trying to take funding away from that. It's insane. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
It is, you know what, it doesn't, I don't get it either. But I mean, there's also a lot of things that are happening in our country that I don't get too. But it's similar to like, banning of books and, things like that. It's like, this is history. It's important to know and to have accessible for everyone, for no matter what age you are. But like, even this younger generation needs to be aware of these things. Like they just do. They need actual education. They need actual history, no matter how hard it is to see or watch or read. It's important.
100%. I think we all need to know how we got here as a country, and that's not just from a white narrative. There were so many different people that came here that helped build this country, willingly, unwillingly, but they still made a dent into where we are, and their stories deserve to be told. And it's unfortunate like that within our society that they even tried to like have different groups, play them against each other instead of for us to, there is enough room at the table, but the lie is that the table only has a certain amount of seats, and that's not true. And I think the more of us that realize that there is enough room for all of us to prosper, I think that will break down a lot of things,
Absolutely. In fact, to piggyback off that, I remember when Crazy Rich Asians came out, and I remember a lot of my white actor friends, male and female, who are all wonderful people and allies and are in support of, of all the equality and diverse casting that's going on. But I remember back when that came out, and the shift in the entertainment industry just started to where, now they're starting to open up to, Asian Americans in, lead roles and Latinas in lead role, like we had only seen it sporadically before that. We had never seen Asian Americans really in lead roles yet, other than unless it was specifically, in Asian storyline,
right?
But I remember them saying, "Oh, well," when we started to experience that shift in terms of casting and things that we were auditioning for, a lot of my white actor friends were like, "Well, it's great, everything's ethnic now, like," and I'm like, and I go, that's what, and from their perspective, they weren't meaning it or intending it, to be offensive. But so what I would tell them, I go, here's the thing. I go, it's not that all the roles now are for ethnic actors. What's happening is there's a balancing out.
Right.
It's not that there's more for us and less for you. It's just that we are now balancing it out, because you guys have been experiencing 90% of the piece of the pie the entire time.
Right.
And reading for not just for the lead roles, but the supporting lead roles, the small roles, the co-star. We'd be lucky if we snuck in there here and there for the smaller stuff. But, and so now you're seeing, that they're starting to, like open up, and now everyone's being welcomed at the table, because there really are enough seats at the table.
Yeah, 100%. And the thought process of that something is mine and it's being taken away, I always tell people to question that feeling. First of all, why do you feel like it was yours to have in the first place? That you have to delve into. And secondly, there were so many people, like if we think about the Oscars and best actors and all this stuff, it wasn't best actors, it was best actors in a very small pool, because some people never got the opportunity to even get in the pool, so I personally, if I'm a competitive person and I want to be the best at my my game, whatever that may be, I want to make sure I'm competing against the best. And that's not what was happening, or still isn't happening.
Which is exactly why we never saw more diverse actors being nominated this whole time.
Yep.
Because we weren't competing in that same pool.
Yeah.
There were very different pools going on, you know. There just was. And I'll never forget when Crazy Rich Asians came out, and literally people would tell me, oh, well, it must be a great time for you because of Crazy Rich Asians. And I go, and I thought about it, I was like, because of one movie.
Right.
It was that was actually a blockbuster hit.
Right.
One. And I would, and I sit there and go, think about that, guys, because of one movie. One, guys, one. How many have you had? Oh, that's right. You probably can't count because there's so many.
Right. And even with Crazy Rich Asians, which was a great movie, but so great. The part of the piece of the puzzle that's happening now that we can stream and we have access to international content is that any of the K-drama girlies right here, we've been seeing this, like that was great, but it wasn't anything new for us.
Sure.
And also, like, there's just so many more stories that I wish we could tell from the American Asian lens of just living. Like, it doesn't have to, like, your identity doesn't have to be the whole point of the story. I like that it was a fish out of water story, and it did tell a different story from how maybe Asians look at Asian Americans, and how there's a very different dichotomy there. But I just feel like, okay, but we want more. People love K-dramas. They are going and watching things in other languages because they want to see that diversity on the screen. And it's not just K-dramas. It's so much. Totally. But like, that's a really good example of that. Yeah.
You know, and here, the thing is with Crazy Rich Asians, like that was very much, you know, intended or made as to be a blockbuster. So it was mainstream as a blockbuster. So you have certain entertainment elements in there that were done specifically for that. But did you see Beef?
I watched some of it. Yeah.
Okay. See, I think Beef is such an excellent example of what you're talking about. Here we have an all Asian American cast, and it was normal. It was like they were all normal people just existing within this story that, you know, it wasn't really necessarily, the storyline wasn't necessarily about them being Asian and why Asian this and why Asian that. It was a human story where the actors portraying and telling this story were all Asian American. And it's like, had we seen more of that just normalized on TV and film, and with every race, to be honest with you, you know, had we always had that, like, you know, we sit there and go, here, haha, see, it works. This is a big success. This would have worked a long time ago too. It could have been working this whole time.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's nice that we're finally starting to see this all come into fruition. So
yeah, and I hope it stays, because one thing I can say, or that I've noticed, is that we have these bursts of diversity. Everyone's tuned into diversity, and then like a backlash of it. I just found out the other day that in 1999, the NAACP actually threatened the Hollywood studios, because I think the 26 new shows that were hitting the airways had like not one like ethnic minority lead or supporting character at all. 26 shows. And so they got really, really pissed, and it just kind of forced the hand of the studios that they had to invest into diversity, which is kind of what we saw after 2020. And you can kind of see that in some ways they're potentially trying to, you know, backpedal on that too, like as if, oh, people have forgotten about that at this point. And I had no idea that's what happened, because I started, you know, I still watch WB like religiously, which is why I knew, okay, she's been on Buffy, she's been on Dawson's Creek, I've seen it all.
You're like, we know her.
I
We
know.
know her. We got her.
And it's actually the actor, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he was a lead on Angel, and he did a video just recently about affirmative action, and he's like, because of that whole thing, that was the only reason that that he got that role. And I was like, I had no idea. I just was like, okay, Angel, getting diverse with the black.
It's it's like it's bittersweet, it's one of those that like that it's a shame that it took that kind of a battle,
right?
But at the same time, affirmative action serves a wonderful purpose, and so it's very bittersweet, and so but now it's so funny because even now today, a lot of people think, oh well, it's balancing out. All I see is diverse, in every TV show and in every commercial and blah blah blah, and I go, okay, so what do you, so to you, in your eyes, it's important to bring this up because even a lot of my white actor friends still think that everything is going to actors of color. And I say, whoa, let's take a look at the percentages here, and let's take a look at what markets. We have broadcast network television. Take a look at the leads on all the broadcast, all the network television shows. Which ones out of the leads are still 75% white, 75% white. And then of course then you have the streaming platforms, and I will admit those are definitely by far more diversified, and we're starting to see that more and more. However, I still see a large number of the first two leads, the first three leads are still all white, and then they throw their Asian in there, they throw their they're black in there, they're Latina in there, they're Indian, who's usually in like a recurring role or something, and so we've made progress, we're on the right path, but we're nowhere near the actual balancing out. We're getting there, but it's going to be a slow journey.
Yeah, and there's nuance to it too, that I think if you look at it from face value, yes, it might look like there's way more diversity, but you have to look at it from front of house, back of house. There's still behind the scenes, there's still, if you're investing in diversity in the front and on camera, that means that those people need to be supported, because unfortunately, until the education system gets to a place where, from an empathetic standpoint, that we are trying to have empathy of what the other person's experience and lived life is, if you have that big disconnect, you can have someone who's diverse in your cast and you're not making it a comfortable environment for them. You're writing for them, and you're still writing from a white lens, and you're not having their hair done by someone that understands their hair or their makeup or lighting.
I need my eyes to pop. Like, it's
lighting on darker hues of shades of skin. Those things are important. And so because people have tunnel vision, they don't realize there's just so much progress that needs to be made. Someone's like, well, so a white person can't write for a black actor. I'm not saying that, but they have to be committed to understanding where this character is coming from and their background, and would they say something that authentically in that way.
In other words, not just a narrative from a white person's perspective of what they think of how they think that that black character would talk, or how they think that they would deal with it. It has to, if you really want to be authentic, and this is a writer's process too, is they do their research. They really got to, wherever their story is coming from, they got to be willing to dive deep into those experiences. If to be able to write that authentically, you have to also then research it authentically.
But you're right. It is, we're getting to,
we're on the right path. We're on the right path.
We are.
And I think for so many people, just for your experience, people in our age range or that got to see you growing up, you play a very key pivotal role in moving that forward, because sometimes if we don't see that something is possible, we can't actually go for it, right? But now you have a whole generation of people who grew up seeing that you actually were in these roles and knowing that that's a possibility for them. So just know that you get to live in that piece of history of doing that for so many people.
Hearing that, I get emotional. Like, you know, like I was saying before, when I had total strangers walk up to me saying you were the only representation I had in TV and film, you know, and like hearing Asian American actresses who I used to see at auditions, you know, walk up to me like, I just need to give you a hug right now, because I didn't think that this was going to be possible for me to be able to be here auditioning for roles, and now to see you, the person that helped the person that was a pioneer and who helped pave the way for Asian Americans in this industry, to be able to be seen as an American actress in mainstream TV and film. Like, you made this possible for me. Like, that brings me to tears. Like, that's, you know, if I die tomorrow, that is the one thing that I can take with me and be like, I had purpose, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you being on the show just made two very happy millennials. So we're very happy about that. And we talked about Bring It On. We talked about Clueless, but Jackie, one of our favorite movies, as just like a part of our friendship, is Can't Hardly Wait. And that movie, like, it feels like almost every star at that time period was in that movie. It was amazing. How was it being on that set?
You said that was the intention. I remember when they were casting it, I was actually offered that role. And so they literally put out a breakdown release specifically seeking actors. And for me, I think it was, would the reps of the actress who played Summer in Clueless please contact us. But they did it for a ton of actors, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, like, none of us are hard to find. Casting knew our agents, you know. But it was just so funny because there was just a bunch of straight offers. They literally wanted to put all of young Hollywood at the time in one movie. Yeah. And they did. And the movie was originally called The Party. So it was literally like one big party.
Yeah. It was so much fun. Like, when we did it for the podcast, you know, back then there were people that we already recognized, but now watching it, so many people have had their career trajectory is even crazier. So, you know, it's just such a fun watch. It's such a simple concept, but
it is. And it's so, the message, there's something very nostalgic about that film that just hits you, you know, and it's a feel-good movie. It's, you know, it's sweet, it's romantic, it's fantasized, but it's also, and it's funny, and it's just, I think it's a movie that everybody can relate to to some degree during that time in age in their life. So the movie was such a blast. Like, my scene with Seth Green, I mean, what a great scene. I mean, you know, like, and here I am crying, and I'm just going to sleep with the next guy who talks to me. And then, how convenient, there's Seth Green. So, but I mean, how fun. Like, it was just so much fun.
So much fun. And Leslie Grossman, she's hilarious.
She's so great.
She's so good.
And she's so nice. She was so funny. She's basically exactly how you think she would be. She really is. Like, just funny and lovely and brilliant, because she writes too and directs too. I think she's directing, but she is like the everyone woman. Like, she literally is doing it all, and she's fantastic.
Yeah. I think it's also funny that we Bring It On and Can't Hardly Wait. I don't know if it was just that there were so many people in that cast either way, and that so many people ended up guesting on Buffy, but the connection there is insane. I know that you got to be on the show and you played one of Cordelia's.
I get the blood sucked out of me. I guess a Cordette. Okay, it's so funny to me because I kid you not, almost every podcast I do, there's always, the Buffy fanatics, right? That literally have seen the whole series a million times. And every single one of them always brings up exactly what you just said. How they relate Buffy to every credit on an actor's resume. And I'm like, it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever.
Exactly.
And they do it with Buffy.
Yeah.
All you guys do that. I love it.
I am obsessed with Buffy. And my mom, I don't know what we were talking about. I was like, if I ever got Sarah Michelle Gellar on the show, I think I would pass out, because I just that show, I think it resonated with so many young girls, because they did a really good job of just taking the themes of the scary things that happen to you as you're growing up, and using vampires and things that go bump in the night as metaphors for it.
Yeah.
It was just a really empowering show for women, like, here's this tiny
we really
little
didn't
girl.
have that. We really didn't have that
No.
before then. And you're right. She was tiny. She's teeny tiny. She's petite.
Yeah.
And like, that was just so empowering for all young girls, to be able to see, wow, this lead character, and she can hold her own. She's tough.
Yeah.
She can fight all the demons off, and you're right, all the different, underlying messages and all the metaphors, and the vampires representing all our fears. And it's just, I didn't really think to look at it that way until you just said it. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the time, people thought it was just like a silly vampire show. It was stupid, but it had, I mean, there are some things that are cringe about it now, but that's anything from that time period.
Sure, yeah.
But I think it lasts for as long as it did, because it played with so many themes that maybe other shows didn't really dive into. And it didn't treat its audience like it was dumb. That was the other thing, And I think now we're looking at fantasy with appreciation when we have like Game of Thrones, but that show, paved the way for a lot of these shows to exist,
We really didn't have that before. You're right. That was kind of the first of its kind, really.
Yeah, it was, still is in my heart. I don't.
I mean, I literally know people. I have good friends who, I kid you not, at least once a year will rewatch the entire series from beginning to end, every season. And I'm like, how? Same with Dawson Creek people.
Yeah,
the Creekers. I don't even know that's what they're called, but it's the funniest thing to me. I'm like, oh my God, I never knew that until I started doing podcasts. Like, oh my God, they're everywhere. Like, they really are like diehard. There are people that watch Buffy and Dawson's Creek from beginning to end every season. They have to do it once or twice a year.
We are obsessed with a show called Veronica Mars, so we rewatched that one. And
Veronica Mars is our
thing, and the OC. Those two shows 100%.
Love it. Those are two shows that I actually did not work on.
I'm just gonna start like just placing your picture in them as I rewatch.
Yes.
I'll take a picture next time.
Good. Please do.
Who knew she was in OC?
I'll take credit. Great, that's great. I'm fine with it. I won't correct you. I will not correct you at all by any means.
Do you keep in touch with any of your previous co-stars from any of your projects?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Claire Kramer and I, from Bring It On, her and I still are in touch. In fact, her and I are actually teaming up to do like a live autograph signing event coming up this Thursday. I do. I loosely keep in touch with some of the cast of Bring It On. I still keep in touch with, oh my God, now that you're asking me, Elisa Donovan from, her and I have been loosely in touch on social media. I've definitely, said, hey, here and there from a lot of jobs actually that I've worked on. So
that's cool. I think it's great because, there's like this 90s, 2000s resurgence happening right now, which is just, we're living for it 100%. We're going to 90s Con in September. So very excited about
I'm hoping to go there. Could you please? So get this. So it's so funny because my appearance rep has been in touch with them, and we've been trying to work on it. And Claire Kramer's going as well. And so apparently it looks good, but we're trying to get them to say yes. So can we start a campaign?
Yes.
Can we just start a
campaign
to get me there? Because if you think about it, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like, you'd think I was like, I'd be like their main,
their niche. Yeah.
Because of all my things that I've done, that'd be like, but we're, and maybe they're just caught up and just busy, but we're trying to get them to say an official yes, because I would love to go.
Oh my gosh. We would love for you to be there.
We will be DMing them immediately after.
100%. Like, I'm just gonna like put some comments.
Permission to stalk, like badger them, send so many messages, find out their phone number if you like, text them. I don't care, do whatever it takes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be so amazing.
Yeah.
One of our followers actually wrote that Courtney and Whitney walked so that Brittany and Santana on Glee could run, and I 100% agree with that statement. Yeah,
I love that. Oh, I love that. That's so, I love, I mean, God, Bring It On, definitely. I mean, Bring It On was like college for me, because I didn't go, I moved to LA right after high school, but that was like my college experience. but yeah, I mean, God, that movie was truly such a blessing in my career, in my personal life, that really did so many huge, beautiful things for me in all areas of my life. Like, that movie was definitely a time that it's like, if there was one credit that, I'd be like, what's the one that really had the most impact on you? I'd probably say Bring It On.
Yeah.
I love that.
If we're going to do a campaign, it's not any more of these sequels, which God bless them. I don't have a problem, but come on. I want a sequel to the OG. You guys are at a sweet spot where you can have like kids or, and have that generation kind of spark something.
There's talk about it. Apparently there's been talks about it for a while. I guess they want to do a remake, all original cast. Gabrielle Union's down. I think Kirsten Dunst, I believe, is down as well. Like, we're all up for it.
I think Peyton Reed is up for it too.
We're just waiting to hear from them and be like, I'm ready. In fact, you know what? Regardless if Courtney and Whitney have daughters that are cheerleading, I want to still do a routine, because I can still do the splits. Damn it, I can.
Oh my gosh, awesome.
Make us do a competition. I still want to show the people, hey, we still got it. Okay.
But I could so see you guys like just. Maybe it's just alumni. They have to call everybody back because, the school maybe has fallen from grace from the years that you guys were at the top of your game. You have to come back and you're like, let me show you how we used to do it. I could so see you guys doing something like that.
Oh my God. Would that not be so funny?
Like co-coaches, but if you push the girls, like the actual teenagers, out of the way, like, let us show you how it's done,
right? Yeah.
So good.
I could so see you guys being co-coaches, and
totally,
like there's a scandal that happens and people have to be called back in,
like one of the girls they break their leg. Oh, I'll step in for them. I try to pull off being one of the teens. Yeah. I think it'd be so funny.
Well, speaking of the 90s, 2000 resurgence, you're on the show Cruel Summer on Freeform, and that's definitely a throwback to the 90s. How is it being on that show? What does it feel like kind of replaying this era that you've already, been in, I guess?
That show was so great because it was taking place in the summers of 93, summer of 94, and summer of 95. And it's funny because I think someone had made a joke when we were shooting saying, wouldn't it be funny because I'm only seen in the year 95, in the summer of 95, because that's when Jeanette, we go through the whole the lawsuit and everything.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be funny because since Clueless came out in 95, it would have been funny to see Denise, my character, like walking by like a billboard of advertisement for Clueless being out.
That would be hilarious.
I mean, that'd be a little funny nod. But talk about a trippy blast of the past, of like even the wardrobe fittings, like the shoulder pads. Oh, God bless shoulder pads, right? And like trying on jewelry and going, I used to have these. I used to wear these in high school, like
trippy.
So trippy. Like there was necklaces, like I had this exact necklace and of course the shoulder pads and just shoes, and it was so wild. And then you get on set and you have your younger actors who are looking at a tape cassette player going, oh, is this a phone? They had no idea what a tape cassette player was. And then you go, wah, wah, wah. And you're like, there it is. There it is. Okay.
Well, before we let you go, because you've been very gracious with your time, are there any other projects that are in the works that we should be looking out for or checking out and supporting you?
I'm trying to think we're in a writer strike right now. So nobody's really working right now. Yeah. We're in a writer strike. And also too, now we have a pending actor strike that our negotiation deal just got extended to July 12th. So depending, what happens with that, there's a lot of things up in the air, but we're still anticipating strikes nonetheless. And they're expected to be going on for a bit. So yeah,
we'll
so
see you
hopefully
at 90s Con.
Yes, the fingers crossed.
Yes, that's what we're pushing for.
If you need to, to fly there and harass them, we gotta find a way to make this happen, because I would love to go. And I just think it'd be so much fun. I'm gonna know a lot of people there as well. I just think it would be a blast. Let's make that happen too, because I want to be on there. I have a friend who goes every year for Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and she's like, oh, there's so much fun. She's like, how are you not there? I'm like, that's an excellent question.
I need you to be there. I need you to be there.
So much fun.
Well, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social and engage with your content?
Yes. Okay. So Instagram is my main platform, and I am at the Nicole Bilderback. I am on Facebook for fun, shits and giggles, and that is Nikki Bilderback. And then I'm on TikTok, but I don't really post a whole lot, but I'm the Nicole Bilderback on TikTok as well. So.
Well, I hope that you're seeing some of the fan videos for you on TikTok, because there are quite a few. So
I've seen I've seen some friends sending me all the time. There's some really good ones out there.
Yeah.
Like they learn the whole routines and everything. And I'm like, how did you learn that just from watching it? It took me 4 weeks to learn a whole routine. Like,
oh, and make sure you guys follow us at No More Late Fees on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube for more 90s and 2000s content. And don't forget to listen to our Bring It On episode now live on the podcast, where we give some wonderful behind the scenes goodness and, as usual, our hot takes on the movie.
Thank you, ladies, so much. It was so much fun.
Oh, we're just so thankful that you joined us. Really and truly, it was amazing.
Anytime.
And as always, be kind and rewind.